Hi folks, welcome back to Homestead Aquarius. That's my pepper right there, the one that I worked on with John at Will It Grow, helping me grow a pepper the way he grows it. Now I didn't start out from the beginning like he does his, but he helped me how to prune it and how he pots it up and everything. And look at the growth here. Where I initially pruned it off, it's done sprouted out several new good looking branches. That should help me out a lot. I love cayenne peppers. I think I'm going to consider this a Shed Wars video today. It's all about how do we help one another grow food. That's on our minds very much. How can we grow our own food wherever we are with whatever we have? The container garden there, that's looking good. I need to add a little H2O to it. But my idea there is working out pretty good. This little pea here, I'm gonna have to bring him on around here and give him some water because this part of it has got sun and it's looking some suffering right there. These over here are all chilled out in the shade of the sunchokes. I'm gonna have to make a bigger trellis here. And the coal bucket is looking pretty good. But as you see, she's growing. I've got to get this into a trellis system so that those beans can keep growing. Those are rattlesnake beans and they grow crazy big. Let me show you this. Just bringing you a few updates, I guess, or just different looks at things. There's my little rare sweet potato boat. Those cute little boogers I put in there a while back. Well, I've had them inside the house there, and they're should have been out here already, but I like looking at them. It's like a house plant. But you notice the difference in the color. That's pale. It's been inside, you know, not much sun. This one is one that I overwintered in the garden, in the greenhouse, and it's been outside now. Even in the greenhouse, it received the sun, and now it gets full sun all day, you know, but you see the difference in the color of green. You know, that's in the sun. That hadn't been. That one over there has been in the sun. Okay, when we talk about how do we grow our own food, God, I've got to try to make this faster. It'd be good if I didn't talk so much. Resources. There's a lot of things that are resources that we take for granted. You can get started growing your own food on the cheap. It doesn't have to cost you money. Look, coffee cans. That most of the time we just take for granted and throw away. Now I don't. I keep a lot of stuff. Drink bottles, okay? Here's a look at the things I'm going to be working with today. Joby don't count, but it does, because y'all be riding Joby here in a minute probably. Toilet paper tubes don't count, but it's resources, right? How do we do things? I know with my allergies, I certainly go through a lot of this. And then it becomes something to start a seed with. Make good little seed starting things. A lot of people are concerned about how to grow their own animals, feed supply, you know, their meat. I know I certainly am and have. And to answer that call, that thing I was wanting to do, I got into quail. I was looking at chickens, rabbits, or quail. Now, each one of those animals will offer you protein, you know, in the form of their bodies. But chickens and quail will offer you protein and fats that you need in the form of their eggs. So, a subscriber and a friend of mine, Pat G. Smith, has asked me about how to make a quail cage. And I'll make other videos, but this will be a quick one, so I can show Pat G. Smith down there in Mobile. Awesome lady. I have spoken to you many times about Pat G. Smith and her garden, you know. Now, her daughter is wanting to keep quail, all right? She's decided that the team, Pat G. Smith and one of her little team members, or little helpers, want to keep some quail. So if you want to keep quail or learn how to make a cage, all right, a little bit about how I've done this, then you know, this is what I'm going to talk about. Hardware cloth. There are many different kinds of hardware cloth. You're going to need that. Now let me back up with this, because I don't script these things. I'm just sitting here talking. As far as I know, this is my idea, my original idea. I've got in my mind something I've been working on for a while, which is a new system for me to raise and manage my quail. Now you'll see there's no quail in here. I've got possums and I've got raccoons. I've got feral dogs around here. I did have one last quail. At one time I had over 100. I think it was 120 conservatively. It was something like that. 100, somewhere between 100 and more than that maybe. I don't know. I got, that was a few years ago. And I got started with a few adult quail, just to see what I was doing and everything. And then I went out and bought 62 quail, little babies quail about the size of a golf ball. They were tiny, and I raised them up and kept them, and didn't lose any of them for a very long time. Had all 62 of those in addition to the rest of them that I had. They're awesome. They grow fast. Quail, awesome little birds. You can keep them in very small areas, and you can keep them in place of chickens or rabbits, even in your apartment. You know, they're easy birds to manage, easy livestock. You're going to want some gloves, okay? Most of you will. I don't know. Hardware cloth has a way of making me bleed, and I just go ahead and work with it. I don't use that many. I don't use gloves that much. Sometimes I will. Now, a little word about your hardware cloth and what you're going to choose. Okay, this, you see this tiny mesh here? This is 1/4 inch. This is 1/4 inch mesh hardware cloth. It's okay if your quail are little tiny babies. And you can make multiple cages, one for small size if you want to, one for bigger ones. All right, but the 1/4 inch, you know, good for baby size with their little feet, that's okay. But you really want it to be a little bit bigger very soon after that. Now the system that I'm working on is perfect for different size mesh, okay? And I'll show you how simple this is. This is 1/2 inch hardware cloth, all right? People at your hardware store will know what you're talking about. If you are brand new to anything like this, they can help you. And if you have any comments or questions, you know, please leave them down there and I'll try to answer them. Something else to consider, this is just bare metal. They do make hardware cloth that has a plastic coating or rubberized coating, and that's better on their feet. If you can find that, I would suggest that the little extra cost of that is worth it for your animals. Now this is different. This is a heavier gauge, heavier strength type of hardware cloth. This is more like rabbit cage material. All right. Now what that does is give a very strong platform that won't sag to go across this. It'll span it. You see where this sags, right? That's just kind of drooping down. It'll do that. But this rabbit cage wire, this heavier gauge, it won't. It's stiff. And that's what you want if you build one of these cage systems like I've got. This is what I will be going to whenever I get more quail. I guess I jumped around a bit. You know, I did have one last quail. I've learned the hard way through how to raise quail, and I'll give you a few tips on that. But I've got possums and raccoons around here, and one just a couple of nights ago got all my mulberries that I had in a jug that I was about to ship out to folks, and something ate them, and it was either a possum or a raccoon. And I'm not saying that the possum or the coon got this one. It can't get in the cage, but what they do is they scare them really bad, all right? They'll stress out your animals. A predator sitting there stress out your animals. A quail, its initial response is to fly up. The first thing they do, well, first they hide. They try to hide. And if danger is too close, they shoot off like a rocket straight up. And if they're in a cage, they bang their head on the top of the cage. And it breaks their neck. And I've lost quite a few to those. I lost, I think maybe 10 or 12 the last go round. And that was the last of my quail. I lost some to some disease that I didn't know anything about. And I lost some to predators. I lost some to lost a lot to old age. But they're tougher birds than you think. You see what you see in there is pine straw and quail droppings. If you've got your quail outside, do not baby them too much. I babied mine, thought I was doing a great job. I had little boxes in there for pine shavings and stuff. But what happens is it wound up getting a little bit of wet. A little rain came in on them, and it got the shavings wet. That harbored a bacteria that wiped out dozens and dozens of quail before I could figure out what it was. It was a cold time, and I was worried that I froze them to death. I let them freeze to death. But quail are hardy little birds. They've got wonderful feathers, and I've seen people having good luck with them down to 20 below, okay? Naturally outside in cages. But that's, we don't get that a lot here. But what got my quail was that bacteria that bred in those pine shavings. If keep them dry, rotated, that's fine. And that's inside too. Do not allow yourself to have any wet material in there with your birds. Let's see. In order to use the hardware cloth and to cut it to the sizes that you need, this is the best tool for me. Sheet metal pliers, sheet metal cutters, snips, sheet metal snips. And it's as simple. Now you can use something like this or any other pliers that have the cutting edge, but I've got 10 snips, so I use those. And zip ties. Zip ties are very, very simple construction. You don't have to use zip ties. You can use wire. Zip ties don't cost that much. Wire costs a little bit more. It's a little harder to deal with, but it lasts forever if you get the right size of wire. So those two things there, that's one thing you're going to want. Now, maybe you're keeping them in your backyard, okay? And that's easier to deal with if your animals are in your backyard. But what if you're wanting to keep a couple of quail in the house, or 3 or 4 or 5? You can. You can very easily. That's one reason why quail are just awesome little birds. Awesome source to have for getting your protein. Okay, a little bit about that. God, I'm jumping around. It's going to be terrible. I'm sorry. A quail, okay, a brown, let's talk about jumbo brown Coturnix quail. A lot of times they're called Egyptian quail. A lot of times they're called Japanese quail. They've got many names. But the kind I raised, well, I had several different kinds, but the best for me, and maybe for you, are the jumbo brown Coturnix quail. All right. When they hatch out, it takes, okay, you take an egg, take a quail egg, incubate it. Within about 17 days, that egg will hatch into a baby quail. From the time it hatches, 7 weeks later, it's laying eggs. You start doing the math on that. 7 weeks, every 7 weeks, and it's 7 days. I don't know. Y'all do the math. 17 days incubation period, 7 weeks till they're mature and ready to lay eggs. A jumbo brown Coturnix quail will guarantee you 1 small egg a day. It takes on average about 4 of those small eggs a day to make one chicken egg. That's about the size difference. A quail egg is said to be more healthy than a chicken egg. It is said to have only the good cholesterol and not the bad. Now, that's all up in the air about cholesterol. They go, it's like, this is good for you, this is bad for you. But I wanted to let you know that both the fat and that's in the cholesterol in the egg and the meat itself is supposed to be what's commonly called the good cholesterol, air quotes, finger quotes. So for a lot of people, it makes a wonderful idea. A lot of people watching that cholesterol. So now you know about that. But you can guarantee yourself 1 egg a day if you've got those. They are reliable. And that depends on the light. As long as they've got light given to them a certain amount of time each day, they're going to think that it's laying time. And people have those year-round laying eggs. It stresses them out a little bit. And so a lot of people will, just let them have a natural light cycle. And that's what I typically do. One year I did have them running well into the winter. And, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But normally I just let them have the light cycle. But what if you're needing them for food, okay? So quail are a powerhouse. And you can get many of them before you know what to do. And you can get, if you start incubating them. Now, jumbo Coturnix quail, something else about that bird, it is like one of the most dumb birds that anything can ever be. They have been bred. It's actually one of the first animals to ever be domesticated is those quail. They were kept in China. Ancient times, long ago is the earliest record. And since, they have been bred into a state where they've lost all of their instincts. They will not sit on their eggs and hatch them out. They have very little in the way of survival instincts. All they know how to do is eat, poop, lay eggs, and look cute, and feed you, But they are awesome little birds. The roosters make a very loud little call. It's pretty neat. Some of my old videos, you've heard it. And it's made me a little bit sad because I haven't heard him crowing lately, but it is loud. If you want to have these in an apartment or in close quarters with neighbors that might gripe, just have hens, okay? If you don't want to breed them. So keep in mind they do have a noise factor with the roosters. The hens are normally very quiet. Now, what you want to do, another way to overcome their bare feet on that wire, okay? If you don't get the coated variety of wire, or even if you do, give them something to stand on, to take a break, to get off of that wire. It can be just about anything. A little something else here. You see what I use in this case. This cage here was basically like an escape pod for my last quail. The possum got the rest of them, and so I made this one an escape pod and got him out to safety, to where I keep an eye on him. But now that it's been out in the open, other things can get to him, so that'll bring me up to another point if I can remember it. Now, coffee cans, wonderful for everything. Look, there's feed in there. It doesn't need much. Quail are extremely messy. And I'm not going to show y'all the systems that I had before. Those are old, they're sitting around. in some places it's growed up, so I won't get to that. This is like if you want to just start them like right away. You know, you don't need a very big hole for their head to stick through and get in there and peck that grain. They will try to drag every bit of it out. And these little drinking cups, okay, get a good look there. That's what I use for watering. You can find these at tractor supply stores, farm stores. And what I'm doing here is showing you what to do. Once you get it installed here into this can, and you got water, everything's going good, these have a tendency to leak. There are ways to help prevent it, but you want to go ahead and get water in here. And you may have to show your quail where the water is. Just dip his beak in there and they'll go back to it. What happens is they see that and they peck at it, lets a little water out. That's the best watering option that I know of. You can get the little waterers with the little mason jar deal, and those work. They work quite well, but it's extra maintenance and the water will get messy. Those little cups don't get messy. You can even use a bottle that you suspend from the top of your cage so that it hangs down into the cage. And what you do is you drill a hole the right size and you use that little drinking cup, you screw it into here, and what it does is it pivots. You can have it pivots. Let me show you this, see if I can do this. Oh, I can't do that. But you can spin where this little black thing is, they spin around, letting you mount them in many different ways. Now, I'm going to get some more quail here before too much longer, but it's one more iron that I do not want in my fire, okay? But when I do, I'll bring you some more tips. Now, this is already a 22-minute video, so I don't need to do everything that I was going to do. This was made quickly, okay? I made this quickly, all right? This piece of hardware cloth just came down over the top of this. All right, you see that action? But I don't like that. It's clumsy. So what I would do to fix that is come through here and make a door, probably right in here. Just open up a door with my snips, you know, and let that door be able to move. And that's probably what I'm going to show you later. I will be making revised versions of this. This is the highlights of what you need to get started now, right now. And you don't have to do this, okay? You can get one of those little parakeet cages. It doesn't take much, but here's what you want to do. If you're going to keep them inside, all right, you want to get something to line the inside of the cage around the walls, okay? The reason I bring it up, you want some kind of material to come up on the inside or the outside, it's fine. About 4 inches high. Okay, the reason for that is quail poop, all right? They don't just poop straight down. They have an annoying little thing that they do, is a little dance almost. When they get ready to poop, a quail backs up. It'll back up for about 4 or 5 inches and poop. And if that quail backs up about 4 or 5 inches and poops up against the cage here, well, it's going to poop outside the cage onto your floor or wherever you've got it set. So, for inside the house, save yourself some trouble and have that little poop barrier going around the bottom of it. Let's see. If it's outside, you want a double layer of protection for them. They are very sensitive to getting freaked out by other animals, children, whatever. So this cage keeps anything from getting to them and being able to grab them out, all right? But what you want is for anything like that to be removed even further. So if you're outside, you want to keep your quail in a cage that is predator proof, but inside a fenced in area that keeps any threats that would scare them at a distance, 3, 4, 5 feet, something like that. Or if you have a fenced in backyard or whatever, that's not a problem. If you're in the house, you want to keep in mind that your cat or your dog or whatever might be harassing them, and do something to keep that stress down. And whatever cage you buy or build, like I said, make sure it's not too tall. I apologize for not being able to see very well in here. This doesn't lend itself real well, but this is, I don't know, maybe a foot. A quail does not need that much room, okay? The less room you give them on height, the better. I made this to where it was tall enough for them to stand up and stretch and spread out their wings. That's what I wanted with this. I didn't want them scooched down too much. Something else to help you is give them a place to hide. Take a coffee can, a pot, a flower pot that's cut in half or something, and have that give them a little like a dome shaped area or a box. Give them something to where they can go into and hide. They really like that. And there is lots of information out there online about keeping quail. Now, let me show you this. Some of you will choose the parakeet bird cage option. Some of you choose there's all kinds of things. One thing, the brown Coturnix, any of these quail that you get, they can't be outside on their own like a chicken. They will die. They will absolutely die. All you're doing is if you try to have these quail outside, all you're going to do is feed the local animals, But let me see if I can do this. Yeah, I can. All right, so this is what I came up with. I've never seen anybody do this. Y'all know I love these tubs, and this is one of the ways that I came up to use them. Simple stuff right here. I'm doing this one-handed. This is now I got my 2 hands in. All right, I'll show you this action. This is the best thing. Like I said, I'm going to have an integrated system that I have had in my head. Do you see how I've got that? Well, that wraps right around the side of this. You could actually pull this in and out like a drawer, okay? It's very simple. I just broke it loose from that. Now I'm going to take this and set it here. Over onto a new one, or slide one out, slide a new one in. I haven't seen anybody do this. It's something I come up with last year. And, that's going to be part of something else that I do. Now what you've got there is a bunch of pine shavings and a bunch of quail manure, all right? That's good compost. That is good to feed your garden. But here's a word of warning. Quail manure is extremely hot. It is hotter by many times than chicken manure is. And you know how hot chicken manure is, okay? Well, quail poop is hotter than chicken poop. So now we've got almost a 30-minute video. Not what I intended, but this will give you an idea of this little cage system, and and how easy that can make it for you. Anybody that's kept animals will tell you how that poop management is important, and the easier you make it, the better. So this catches pretty much going to catch 100% of the poop, and it lets you slide it in, slide it out, and then get your pine shavings. Oh, that's something else. That's another thing. Pine shavings. All right. A lot of us know about cedar shavings and everything, and we go for that. If you use cedar shavings, you're gonna possibly have problems. Cedar shavings are known to kill birds and maybe other animals as well. Pine shavings are perfect. They're wonderful. They don't have the same oil. It's the cedar oil that causes respiratory distress with birds. You'll kill your birds. Not everybody will, but some of you will. So don't go for cedar, go for pine. And what if you don't have pine or you don't want to spend the money for that? Leaves. Leaves work. Newspaper works. Shredded up paper. Anything like that, as long as it's carbon, you know, that's gonna take care of it for you. The main thing I wanted to show you was this cage. And again, you can buy you a cage or you can make them. And this cage, this type of cage here, later on, not right now, I'll add more things, more to the system, and be able to show folks what I'm going to do. But it's not going to be right now. Not right now. It's springtime, and there's too much going on. And every YouTuber I know that's got anything to do with gardening, it's go time. And it's very difficult right now trying to keep up with the garden, you know. And we're watching each other as much as we can. By George, it's hard. It ain't winter no more. We're not bundled up in the winter. Everything's growing. Everything's green. It's go time. So, Pat, it's a very long episode here, darling, and I'm sorry. You know I'm long-winded. Sorry to anybody that has to endure, but most of y'all gonna make it pretty quick video anyhow. But if you want a good way to make your cages, this right here is the best way that I have found. It's portable. You can pick them up and move them. You can swap out the poop, you carry the poop off. You know, it's just another reason that these trays are so awesome. That right there is going to go on my slow burn compost pile. I've talked about that before. All that heat that's in there is going to break down over time, and it's not going to be a problem. It's going to make some very, very rich soil in there. So, Pat G. Smith, I hope I've given you enough information about quail and cages and everything. You know, you just let me know and hit me up. You know, you can leave a comment or you can message me or whatever. We can talk on the phone, whatever you want to do, darling. You're helping everybody out there. You have inspired me for so long with your garden and your sweetness. And I'm going to tell you, I've got another one with Pat G coming up probably this week, probably tomorrow or the next day, because she had a giveaway drawing. And I was one of the winners. It's so awesome. I'm just tickled. I tell you, Pat G. Smith down there in Mobile is a treasure. And she has been a source of inspiration for me for a long time. I messed something up on my phone with the focus deal. But go find her. One of my friends and a source of inspiration. And check out, I can't get it to focus right. Right? Go check her out. And you can see what I won. But I'm going to be doing a video on that in the next couple of days. So, Pat G, I love you down there, girl. A lot of people do. A lot of people care about you, and your place is amazing. So, I'm going to say bye, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for watching.